Uh, About to go live with the great brother, Honorable Judge Joe Brown. I'm bring him on because we got a couple things to talk about. It's a hot topic tonight. Hey, what's going on,
All
Judge?
right.
What a day, sir.
Here's what it is.
It is what it is. A lot of breaking news going on. I think the cavalry has arrived, as they would say.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. I've been looking at this thing with the FBI supposed to raiding Donald Trump home, and
Well, what happened when the FBI raided King, when they raided Malcolm stuff, when they raided H. Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael, and all of that? They got a lot of people outraged, and the effect was exactly the opposite of what they anticipated. It galvanized a lot of people who were on the fence to become supporters of the target. The FBI has never been anyone's particular friends.
that's what I said. That's exactly
Okay. That's fine. In other words, it pisses me off. In other words, you had Ronald Reagan, who would have been worthier of such because of what turned out to be some proven violations of American law when he issued 3 executive orders directing that those departments he had immediate control over to disregard the federal law about arms for the Contras. And it probably got us the ire and passivity of bin Laden, and that brought on 911, but nobody cares about that. Look at George W. Bush's incompetence. They didn't even do this with Tricky Dick Nixon. So what's the deal? Bill Clinton, they could have gone after him for a lot of things, served some warrants to get records on what his brother was up to, all kinds of things. See, this group is beginning to show signs of extreme fascism.
That's right.
Some people say, oh, it's communist. No, it's not communist. See, communism deals with a system of government that was essentially more, the word is proletariat, people oriented, and Nazism that comes from National Socialist Workers Party, socialist. See, socialism is not the same as communism. Socialism is an economic model. Communism is a governmental model to deal with the evils of the economic plan known as capitalism. And there were some evils: 14, 15-hour work days for children, no safety equipment for adults, exploitation, no workers' rights, and generally a miserable, hazardous situation if you were a worker.
Well, let me say something to you.
Yours, all right? Fascism is a methodology of governance that's totalitarian, that says by any means necessary, including an informal totalitarian governance that has no constraints. See, communism always had constraints, even though they might have had a strong man at the top. And this thing in North Korea is actually a communist abomination because essentially it's a monarchical thing where there is the king grandfather, the king father, and the young king grandson who, communism is not supposed to be inheritable. It's supposed to be it's a proletarian thing. In other words, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. Get rid of religion so the people learn to count on themselves, and you go from there. And eventually, your communism cures the capitalism it was addressing, and you will no longer need communism. See, I read a paper that was translated in 1919, written by Lenin in 1917. And in this 1917 paper, he was saying that Russia would be suited to be a democracy starting in 1990. Gorbachev announced that the Soviet Union was breaking up and what was formerly the Soviet Empire would become a democracy in 1990. Lenin used the specific terms glasnost and perestroika in 1917 and 1919, and Gorbachev in 1990 said glasnost and perestroika. Lenin postulated
Got it. Rose up.
that Russia could not have under the czars. They wanted to say Reagan beat communism. No, he didn't. They had a plan, and it was supposed to be we won't need it anymore in 1990. By 1990, if it goes to plan, and it did, so they didn't. And now the Soviet Union devolved into Russia, Ukraine, Hungary, Czech Republic, Romania, etc., is now closer in form to a democracy than we are. We are not a democracy. All we do is we elect our representatives in a democratic fashion for the most part. And that only included members of the House of Representatives, which was one chamber of Congress. Subsequent to that, they passed a constitutional amendment that took the selection of senators from state legislative bodies and governors and gave it to the people. So now we can elect congressmen, representatives, because the whole thing is a Congress. Article 1 says there shall be a Congress which shall consist of two chambers, the Senate and the House. So the House and the Senate gets elected by the people. The people pick a group of electors analogous to a board of directors who do what? Like the board of directors pick the CEO's the CEO of the corporation. The Electoral College selects the president. So we don't have a strict democracy. We just elect 2 out of the 4 types of officials democratically. One group is selected by a select group, and the other one is appointed by one of the selected individuals, the president, and confirmed by the Senate. So other than that, we don't have a democracy, because a democracy would be every time there was a proposed bill, they would have a referendum and have all of the people in the country vote on it. We don't have that. The Russians have something closer to that now. So it is what it is. But what we're getting back to is that we have a group, and in this case, they're not jackboot wearing, goose stepping, Zeke Heiling, political thug fascists. They're pink panty wearing fascists who switch and twitch, and they're trying to impose fascist methodology and restriction on the people, suppressing the press so there's no free opinion anywhere. And one of the poisons that comes out of that is hate speech, which is an anathema to a free society. We have this: we protect you from cradle to grave. You're entitled to every damn thing. So your question is not my opportunity, but when can I get them to give me what I want? And it goes on from there. So it is what it is. And this is a classic example of abuse of authority and power, which is typically a fascist thing. And it's going to come back and bite them, like this second impeachment attempt against Trump is going to. See, previous to this, to impeach someone, return articles of impeachment, and then go to whether or not the person is convicted, you had to be talking about something that was occurring while the person was in office. But what they did is after Trump was no longer president, they went after him for what he supposedly did while he was president. So under the 12th Amendment, he wouldn't be eligible to run for president again because they're scared of him. And I know it's not popular to say it, but it looks like they stole the election. It happens all the time in American politics. Local elections usually, every now and then it's federal election. And they had, by the way, the 1877 Confidence in Election Act that is still law in the United States. So if it looks like there is a lack of confidence in the outcome of an election, the Congress may appoint a special select committee. 5 members come from the U.S. Supreme Court, 5 come from the House, and 5 from the Senate. The whole thing's presided over by the Chief Justice of the United States. And if the House has more Democrats than Republicans, then what happens is they get 3 and the Republicans get 2, or vice versa. With the Senate, actually, there are 50 Republicans, 48 Democrats, and 2 independents. So it would be 50-50, but technically the Republicans have the majority of actual party members, so they would get 3, and now the Democrats would get 2. And then it would break down the same way with the U.S. Supreme Court, 2 from each president who appointed, with the Chief Justice, whoever appointed him, sitting as the 5th. So its mandate was to review and basically audit the election results for the for the College of Electors, and take a minimum of 10 days and come back and make a report, and or take as much time as is necessary so the public would retain confidence in the process. Now, it just so happened that on 1/6, all of this mess going on with the hearings that you hear are seeing, which is a circus. I'll get to that in a moment. You had the next item up was consideration of the 1877 Confidence in Elections Act, and whether or not that 15-man committee was to be appointed. Interestingly enough, it got disturbed. So you're looking at this 1/6 committee, they can't prosecute anybody behind that. The attorney general can't decide to prosecute somebody. He's got to find a U.S. attorney for a given federal district, like West District of Tennessee or Southern District of Illinois, and there has to be a grand jury that returns an indictment. Now, the U.S. attorney, the attorney general, can't do that. It has to be a local U.S. attorney sitting in a district of federal court. Now, that is not going to happen out of this. Maybe somebody might get inspired, but it's a waste of time, because technically all everybody has to do is say, screw you, I take the 5th. And if they keep getting into it too deeply, then what the hell happens is they run into an Ollie North syndrome, where they got Ollie North convicted, but it got thrown out because what? Congress wanted to grandstand then, the Democrats one more time, although they should have gone after Reagan, but not the way they did it. They went after him, and they got a good show lambasting Ollie North. And then, oh, wow, we got a conviction. And properly, the appellate courts threw the conviction out, said, you blew it because you violated the man's rights under the Bill of Rights and due process under the 14th Amendment. So you screwed the pooch. You just blew it. And that's what they're doing right now. It's good showpiece stuff, but what it's all about is they're getting ready to get their ass kicked in these midterms. Their president has been a pathetic loser and failure, and has the worst confidence rating in the last 50 years. And every time they've been keeping these results, it seems that the party of the president always drops in its representation in the House and in the Senate.
Obama lost 63 seats.
Yeah, so wow, this is the lowest anybody's ever been, and the administration is just flat out incompetent and doesn't even seem to have any charisma. And the vice president, Kamala Harris Imhoff, is just a disaster. Her ratings are worse than, well, Spiro Agnew. And for those who don't know, Spiro Agnew was Tricky Dick Nixon's vice president, and he went and served time in a federal and a state penitentiary for crimes committed. So his ratings, even after he got convicted, were better than Kamala's.
Let me say something to you right here. You were talking about pleading the fifth, and you been on what's the guy named Alex Jones show. You've been on his show before.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Jones just went to court last week for this.
But see, that's not criminal. That's civil.
Well, yeah, I know,
civil, you can't plead the fifth.
But here's the deal. Trump, Alex Jones, anybody that's tied to them, that's that thing I sent you with the UN said, you see a conspiracy theory, this is how you spot one, never engage. Basically giving you a first class look on how to deal with people who don't fit their narrative, which is very dangerous. That's actually worse than dangerous. Actually, you're saying, hey, basically, that's why I said like this thing at the FBI. They're saying that this is just efforts to stop you from running or speaking or having a radio show. They raided a Socialist Party guy down there in St. Louis. Me and a brother was talking about that the other day. So they are. Now, let me say something else, Judge, with the Alex Jones thing. And it all falls in line. And the other day, what did they pass while the Senate was going on? Now, break down Alex Jones in a second. But just like with this Inflation Reduction Act, one of the main things they said was we're going to hire 87,000 plus IRS agents. Why are you trying to make? They trying to make IRS like a branch in the military.
They need money to run this bullshit program they're talking about, and they don't have it because we can't afford it. And the massive inflation, the high gas pump prices, that's because of the technology that they're pulling off because they are owned by high finance, such as Goldman Sachs. Now, see, if Goldman Sachs manipulates a 6, 7, 8, 9, 11% increase, inflation, 8, 9, 10, 11%, that reduces their debt load by 8, 9, 11%, whatever the increase is. Why is that? It's because they continuously borrow money on paper for which they are liable to repay or deal with the conditions of the advancement. And when they engender inflation, that reduces their debt load and they get increased profitability. The Democratic Party is essentially owned by the likes of high finance. The last 3 nominations by our half-breed Kenyan president, Barack Obama, they all had worked for Goldman Sachs. That was that white guy that never did get confirmed. And by the way, he was a lifetime Republican. And he was always against black defendants when they had these 3-member panels post-conviction relief stuff. Well, I'm talking about under Obama.
But that's dollar.
Yeah, and the 2 women he got nominated and approved to the U.S. Supreme Court had been consultants or worked for Goldman Sachs. Geithner, who was his Treasury Secretary, had been chief consultant for Goldman Sachs. Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle, they both worked for a law firm that did legal work for Goldman Sachs. Obama's trust fund out of Indonesia is to a great extent financed by Goldman Sachs. So you see this spread across, and it's not just limited to them. Cruz, the Republican star, his wife was an employee of Goldman Sachs. So you see the patterns that you get here, they just insinuate themselves into the governmental process, and that's where you had under Bush $700 billion bailout because Goldman Sachs got to play around fast and loose with the rules, and they were exempt from a banking regulation that says your accounts have to be backed up by a certain percentage of cash in your own banks or with the Federal Reserve. Goldman Sachs was exempt from that, so they didn't have to have one dime in cash. And 700 billion wasn't enough to save them, and that might have induced a worldwide depression because of what nonsense was allowed to happen. And then the Obama administration, they pushed through a $781 billion bailout plan for the likes of Goldman Sachs and Smith Barney. But when the dust settled, there was no more Smith Barney and a lot bigger Goldman Sachs. So what you had is $1.48 trillion that the United States spent out to bail out private business. And I don't understand why they didn't file voluntary bankruptcy against Goldman Sachs, drive it into federal receivership, have a federal GS-15 manage it, or several, and nobody got paid any bonuses, and straighten the mess out and get the U.S. and the people out from under this situation that had been compounded by what we had with Goldman Sachs. Geithner, who was Obama's Treasury Secretary, came up with a loophole that he convinced Congress to apply to Goldman Sachs, and that was a Target, Walmart. They had a lot of problems with bad checks being written by people who felt they had to write them for groceries and essentials. So what they wanted to come up with is plastic debit cards where you couldn't charge more than you actually had on deposit with a bank, which cut down on the bad check fees and misdemeanor prosecutions, et cetera, for bad checks. Well, Geithner said you exempt them, so let's apply that to Goldman Sachs. Now, Geithner, for what it's worth, became Treasury Secretary, chief of a unit of government, IRS, that had prosecuted him successfully for fraudulent failure and tax evasion in the tune of $28 million, for which he paid a $42,000 fine and got 6 months suspended. And contrast that to Wesley Snipes, who got found guilty of 3 counts of failure to file a complete set of returns, and IRS had a check for him at sentencing around $250,000 because he had overpaid his taxes, and he got 3 years. And I know that because I was there. I testified as a character witness for him, and I was at that proceeding. So I was there when IRS had the check. Now, you see how this is working? That's straight out of Orwell's Animal Farm. You remember the animals overthrew the human farmers and took control, and they had a constitution.
I know one thing, the IRS, they ain't gonna get them in agents. They coming after a lot of middle.
Well, yeah, but
ain't no stuff like Joe Biden talking about no.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Tax the fair corporations and make the corporations pay.
Well, yeah, but that's not really true, because it still deals with a need to use Goldman Sachs to refinance, which helps the people that, dropped his drawers and bent him over and just spit on it. They make more money by coming up with the refinance packages. So it's still Goldman Sachs and high finance. But here's the deal. And that Orwellian thing, their constitution said all animals are equal. But when the pigs took over, it said all animals are equal. And then it added, but pigs are more equal than others. So we've got a pig pen going where some people are more equal than others. And some people don't have the same rights as others. So it is definitely uncool. We got a pig pen going up in D.C.
Well, we got a lot of stuff going on, Judge. I was looking at this thing, though, and I looked at this bill they passed. They also got money for green energy, this, that, but they put all these provisions in there. But really, to tell you the truth, if you really look at the bill, it has nothing to do with really solving inflation. That's why I say I don't like when they name these bills. And Kamala Harris is the one with the tie-breaking vote, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It was 50-51. She broke the tie. was
Yeah.
totally bipartisan. That is, look, 50-50 split, that doesn't often happen. So when you got a 50-50 split straight down party lines, you got a hell of a problem in the country, because that indicates polarization that is corrupt, and, not necessarily corrupt, but just intractable. The other thing too is, why are they raising the taxes on the corporations so they can get more business for high finance? And why are they jacking around old folks' retirement plans and 401k programs for the people who are still working, and a whole lot of other stuff, and hiring folk under the dodge of, we've got cheats out there we have to catch? See, what they'll do is attach accounts, and even if they are wrong and they have to pay it back, they get to keep and use your money for months if you have enough to go after them and try to get your money back. So it's a cheap way of using the people. What do they need it for? Hell, they got to pay for Ukraine, and they got to pay for the illegals flooding across the southern border. So it isn't right for the people to have to meet that burden, because somebody's got a social agenda that they're trying to push. And part of that social agenda is disruption and destabilization of the norm, and in this case, for the abnormals. And when I say abnormal, it's like, okay, here's some glasses. I need to put them on to read. If I had normal vision, I wouldn't need these, because I could read the print without these, but I need these. Some people wear these things just to see with, because they're nearsighted or farsighted. So if they had normal vision, they would be 20/20, and they could read that chart on the optometrist or the ophthalmologist wall, and they wouldn't need eyeglasses or contacts or LASIK, so they could see better, because they have normal vision. Well, some people are they're outside of the heterosexual thing that Mother Nature's been setting up for a long, long time. So they're not normal. I mean, it doesn't make them defective people. That is not normal. But you see, what they're trying to do is say everybody's got to take eye drops so that they have blurred vision, so they no longer are 20/20. So everybody's got to wear glasses. And that's what they're trying to do. It ain't normal. So I feel sorry for them, but we can accommodate them. But
hey, hold on,
you see, you can't teach Christianity in school, Islam, Judaism. You can't teach Hinduism, Zen, Buddhism, anything like that in a school. But you can teach rainbow. See, that's what they're trying to do. And then the worst thing about it is hate speech. That will destroy the First Amendment.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned hate
I hear our Hotep Negroes talking about, oh man, they need to have something to protect black folk from being talked about. No, fool. You don't need anything to be protected from. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And we used to play that game. Hey, man, your mama's so fat, man, she can't even fit in the bathtub with 2 drops of water, man, and take a bath, man. That's why she stinks so bad, man.
Let me say something here.
Everybody punk out these days.
Let me bring the brother in. Shaq, he decided to jump on. Hey, Shaq, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, man, salute to you gentlemen, man. How you fellas doing tonight?
Doing all right. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That is exactly what my great aunt used to tell me back in the day, Judge. That is. Now, let me ask you a question, Judge, since you said that. I'm glad you said that, because I was talking to a friend earlier, and we were talking about that, we were talking about the younger generation now. It seems like a lot of them now, back in the day, I didn't hear about Gen Xers or whatever, Gen Xers, some millennials, but more so Gen Xers these days, talk about they feel like they want to commit suicide more, have suicidal thoughts.
Let them.
But Reed didn't
get rid of them. We got to
have this, and I'm only 5 years away from these people, so I'm just trying to find out what's up. Like,
Let them. I
we-
mean, the other places in the world, you want to commit suicide, go for it. The Japanese, seppuku. If you shamed yourself, take yourself out.
yeah, but this is a
Over the
problem
fifth
when you
fleet.
got people talking about that, right?
The kamikazes. Banzai.
Well, what I'm saying, they call it cyber bullying and bullying and all this other
That's
stuff.
so punk. Oh, the hell. Toughen up.
But that's what I say. But
I know, but the sissification in the country is extraordinary. Meanwhile, the Russians and the Chinese are doing a man-up thing. We're down here. Oh, they have to be protected. They've been bullied. It's up to the parents and the police and the faculty administrators. We have to protect the little punks from being bullied. No, they need to be shoved in there and taught how to fight so they can bust the dude that's bullying them right in the mouth. And even if they get their behinds beat later, at least they grow up knowing they can screw up the nerve to bust somebody in the mouth when it became due.
Now, let me say something to you. You talk about hate speech, and I'm gonna let you and Shaq get in on both of this, and I'm gonna come in too. Now, today, not hate speech, but they said hate crime. So they said they're gonna get these 3 guys or the 2 in that Ahmaud Arbery case, life sentence. Now, so what do you think? I mean, life sentences for these guys.
If you're going to give somebody a sentence for killing somebody, give them a sentence for killing them, not because they may have hated the person for some reason. I mean, I hope if you kill somebody, you have some justification for doing it. I mean, think about it. Just think about it. You're looking at a life in the penitentiary, so they're going to add life in the penitentiary and enhance a maximum sentence because you hated the fucker that you killed. And what's that do for you? Man, you can kill him because you want to rob him. You can kill him because you want to extort him. You can kill him because he did something to offend your gang. You can kill him because he's standing there on the street looking ugly or pretty, depending upon your perspective. But you can't kill him because you hate him. Doesn't this sound a little stupid?
Well, yeah, Shaq, what do you think about that?
I gotta concur, man. Hate. It's been so much hate in this world. Shit, everybody need to be locked up then on hate crime then. They just hate. Hey, they used to hate the way my hair look. Shit. Can I get them locked up on that?
Well, let me give you my take on it. Because I realized over the last week they gave the officer of Breonna Taylor, they charged them. And then this guy.
That was a scapegoat, by the way, to try and save a little ass whooping room.
Yeah, I look at this too.
Midterms.
Well, that's what I think.
And by the way, the hypocritical bastards still haven't gone after that woman that got Emmett Till killed. So until you do that, fuck you. You're full of shit.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's right.
It's called they filibuster, man. They playing with the banana again, and they trying to shove it up somebody's tailpipe. I'm not gonna let them shove it up mine.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Judge, because that's the same exact thing I said. I said they are trying to play political footballs right now, throw it and say, hey, we got Breonna Taylor police officers, we got them, we got this guy, we could charge with hate crime. Now, this is the big one I'm gonna bring up now. Hold on. Hold the phone, Shaq. I got this. Hold up. Now, just last week, they told you who got 9.5 years in a Russian prison. Brittany Griner, right? They came and brought it up. And check this out. They also got a Marine over there named
several.
No, but a guy named Paul Whelan. They've been trying to get him back.
They have another one over there too, who's his cellmate.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fine. But I want to bring him up and Brittany Griner up and the Russian arms deal they got. And what I look at it, what they're trying to do, they want to get the Marine back. That's for the white folks. But for the black folks, they can say, we get Brittany Griner back possibly bring her to the State of the Union and say, look what we did. Biden was able to get Brittany Griner back to the United States to help the LGBT community and black folks. I showed you I was going to get it done for you. They are using her as a political football to get us to stop the vote.
Insult to those veterans they induced to go volunteer to fight for Ukraine, who are now sitting in POW camps. And it isn't just that too. There are a lot more. And they should be getting first priority. And all of the tens of thousands of American citizens who are sitting in foreign jails and prisons for drug trafficking or drug possessions, they didn't say crap about that. And the other thing is media has been saying, oh, she only had one vape full of cannabis oil. She had a bottle with her. And the correct term is not cannabis oil, it's hash oil.
Kamala Harris says she's wrongfully detained.
Bullshit. The Kamala Harris is a lying bitch because she sat up there and she gave out what the Justice Department found for years, the stiffest recommendations for simple possession of marijuana in the whole of the United States to black defendants, and San Francisco, where for goodness sake, everybody walks up and down the sidewalk smoking reefer. And that's what she was doing with a hypocritical ass. Now, that being the case, hash oil, the amount she got would probably carry a minimum mandatory sentence of between 10 and 15 years in an American courtroom. More than that in the federal system. The next thing that goes on is she's not going to serve 9.5 years. They're talking about letting her go after 3 to 6 months. See, we haven't even gotten to whether it'll be probated. So they gave her a lesser sentence in Russia than she would have gotten in America absent plea bargaining. She won't have to serve as much time. And people are trying to raise all kinds of hell, and they have former Marines, soldiers, and airmen sitting in POW quarters who ought to be subject to a trade for that arms dealer that the Russians want back. Now, that being the case, there's probably some NSA, CIA types out there that did some of that 00 killing for the good guys. So that's a quote, unquote. So why don't you get them out instead of wasting it on this chick? She's been over there for 6 years. She gets more playing basketball in Russia than she makes with the WNBA. So she didn't know. And what she brought in was enough to get the whole damn team high for a long time. See, it's hash oil, hashish. And that, by the way, is the basis for the word assassin, hashishin. The old man in the mountains back in the Middle Ages would get some of the acolytes that he had recruited high as MF on some hash and get them to thinking they'd been to paradise, so they wanted to go back so they'd be willing to die to kill somebody or take somebody out for the politics that were getting the old man wealthy. And the old man in the mountain became a series of people. It was kind of an office, but it went on for 200 or 300 years. So, I mean, hash is not just reefer. It's refined reefer. That's like saying, oh, wow, it's just poppies. Okay, fine. You can crush them up and squeeze them. And sometimes when somebody's out in the wilderness over there and they get hurt, break a leg or something, they'll squeeze some. And the pain gets a little dull, but there's a hell of a lot of difference between fresh or dried out poppies and some refined heroin. Hell of a lot of difference. So you got hash oil, you got a large amount of hash oil. That isn't a low schedule drug. When you refine it, it's high, gets higher in terms of the severity. And it's like comparing 55 gallons of 93 octane premium gasoline with 55 gallons of crude oil. It ain't the same.
But they keep saying she had a prescription for a vape cartridge. They get them out.
Come on, that's bullshit. In other words,
They don't get them
the
out.
bottom line is the amount of hash she brought in, hash oil she brought in, would require somewhere between half and 3/4 of a kilo of herb to get. You don't walk in an airport with damn near 3/4 of a whole kilo of herb in your damn luggage. What the hell's wrong with you?
Contraband, baby.
Well, my thing is, like I said, I look at it as a political ploy, but
And wait a minute. What the hell is she doing smoking herb or using herb when it would get her disqualified from the Olympics or from international sports? Says you're breaking the law anyway. I got a prescription. Yeah, but you can't play with. If they test you, you got a problem. Even here with the WNBA.
well, you got this person, you got Al Sharpton on the radio show saying that.
Oh, he's a jackass, chicken eating fool. Go take him back to KFC. Oh no, he'd be better than Popeyes.
But he said that that's one of the number one priorities they trying to do, get her home and so forth. And like,
oh, and all of the folk that look like him running around impoverished and suffering, and all these black boy children killing each other because they didn't have any daddy around to give them man training.
well, Mayor Lightfoot
that is
was
our
at a
number
pride
one
thing the
priority.
other
When
day.
you goddamn number one fool.
Mayor Lightfoot was at a pride thing the other day where 52 people got shot in Chicago on the weekend. So what's the problem?
Yeah, you out there priding while all of the people.
She was doing the cha-cha slide.
Yeah, while all of your citizens are getting deprided, no pride in their town and killing each other, and your damn fool out there rainbowing.
Yeah, but
with your husband, with your wife. Well, I mean, she got a right to do that, I suppose.
But listen, what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like they throwing all these political footballs at us. But I just pulled up a chart the other day. Well, not a chart, more like an article. But they said that if Joe Biden keeps saying the unemployment rate is the best in history, it's 3.6. A lot of people not coming to work. The labor force participation rate is way down. But anyway, they came out and said the black unemployment.
Last month, they lost 600,000+ jobs in the American market. So that's good. Oh, I forgot. The demented MF is sitting there in a world of delusion.
Well, they keep saying the gas prices, they said it's going down. I said, wait a minute, we ain't that much down.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. He's been releasing oil reserves, some of which are 80 years old. And they got put in the ground at $6.18 a 55-gallon drum. And they got put in the ground at $14.94 a 55-gallon drum. And they're getting it released to them at those prices, which is ripping off the taxpayers, and they're refining it and will be selling it at the pump as though they paid the current high barrel price on imported oil. See, there's a real ripoff on that. By American law, 25% of all imported oil has to go into the oil reserves. And for each barrel that goes in, each 55-gallon barrel that goes into oil reserves, the government has to pay the oil company a $5 premium per barrel over the market price. All right? Now, 99.9% of all domestically consumed oil is imported. So on 99.9%, let's say basically rounded off 100% of all oil, 25% has to go into oil reserves. And we have to pay these damn rip-off oil companies $5 extra per barrel over market price. And then you sell it to the Chinese, you sell it to the oil companies again when it's been in there since 1941, been in there since 1938. Been in there since 1949 when it was real cheap, but they get to buy it for that price and refine it and sell it as though it were $111 per barrel. See, we're getting ripped.
You're right
But
about that.
Yep.
supposed to
Exactly.
get pacified because, oh my God, the FBI raided evil Donald Trump. Did you see
Good
that?
old.
It was going around on Twitter. The guy's in front of a pump. You can see the pump prices. And he said, don't blame me. I voted for the mean Twitter, the mean tweeter. You know?
It's good old fashioned. We get played and they get paid.
Get played, get paid. That's what it is. Sound like a pimp and a hoe situation. And that's what they say about the White House. One pimp, one hoe.
I just can't understand the people that so-called voted for his administration that is they walking around with one eye covered, like with a handkerchief covered over one eye.
They don't want to know. Remember, they believe Trump is evil. Now, by every metric, he did pretty damn good for a lot of people in the country, but he was not for that cult wants to be able to do to the children and grandchildren what Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism can't do to the children in a public school, but they want to be able to do it because, you know, they don't reproduce, they recruit.
Yep. Well, it's just a lot of hypocrisy going on here. Now, what I did
Well, let me just make one disclaimer. I'm not getting on gay folk. You go ahead and do what you want to do. Get your freak on in the bedroom. But just because
it's not the time for that though. It's the economy is crashing. Okay, get your freak on. That's cool.
There are a lot of gay people that don't like LGBTQ. They think it's a cult. And there's one of them I ran into when I worked out there for 15 years said, just because you were a Christian didn't mean you were a supporter of Reverend Jim Jones and drinking Kool-Aid at church picnics. Just because you are Islamic doesn't mean you support ISIS or Al Qaeda. Just because they are gay doesn't mean they support this program that LGBTQ supports, particularly the one that goes to pedophilia and this tranny mess. Think about it.
Cause see,
Cults.
They got us again. They talking about abortion. And they talking about what if a girl a 5-year-old get now how about this? What if a 5-year-old get pregnant by incest or rape? Go after why they ain't talking about going after the rapist and the perpetrator?
Right.
Whoa.
And then the other thing too is this. Now they love the CDC, Center for Disease Control. That's their darling, right? Well, the CDC issued a report that the mainstream media and the White House has been doing their damnedest to suppress, and it simply says puberty blockers that are the favorite little juice drug of this crew to block those who decided at 8 years old they didn't want to be a boy or a girl from going through puberty. Well, guess what? They cause blindness and visual acuity problems and mental health issues when administered. What they're supposed to be for is where you got a poor little girl who's only 8 years old starting to get her cycle, so you don't want that to happen because it's got all kinds of physical fallout on it. So you want to delay it. Or a 9-year-old boy, you know, getting ready to start growing hair under his arms and growing a mustache, he gets all kinds of problems if he comes into puberty too early. So it's to block that. It's an emergency situation. Not because some fucked up mommy decided that she wants a little pretty boy to be a pretty girl and say, oh, he told me when he was 2 he wanted to be a girl. Well, what the hell wrong with you? Why didn't you say, no, you're a man? Look at Charlize Theron in that circus she's done with those 2 little South African boys she adopted and has tried to girl out as hard as she could. See, that's the sick parent. That's not the child. All kinds of children have always had questions. They challenge, what am I? What am I supposed to be? There are these girls over here with little pink dresses and panties on, and I got supposed to have drawers and jeans on. What's the difference? So they throw shit out. and the adult's supposed to straighten them out. So they throw a test something out. They want to be a girl, and oh, he wants to be a girl. Damn, fool, what's the matter with you?
How old was those
Or
kids?
correct the girl. No, they want to, oh, I want him to have what he wants. Well, he wants to both be a bird, so you're going to let him jump off that fourth floor of that building so you can see if his ass can fly or go splat.
Yeah, we living in the most schizophrenic times. These are the most schizophrenic goddamn times, boy.
Oh, and we got to get rid of
Right
guns.
about that.
Oh, my God. Guns, guns, guns. They're so evil. No, stupid motherfucker. It's this bullshit that you've come up with that has caused all of these boys to lack man training and self-control. They have no damn shame. Oh, we can't shame anyone. That's so awful to make someone feel guilt. Yeah, they should feel guilt. Shame, immense, intense shame for not doing the right stuff. But no, we can't do that. So the causality of the violence is this crap. I've been taking the martial arts for 55 years. I can kill most MFs with my bare hands in 15 seconds and put them down if they don't have the same kind of training I have. Most rooms I've been in, I just look around. I haven't been in a room in a public place in a long time where there's not a handy weapon 2, 3, 10, 12, 15, or 20 laying around to take somebody out. But you can't license me, and I'm not going to kill anybody. I'm there, if anything, I'd protect them. So it's a character issue. My crowd, we all carry pistols legally. Anytime you see us, we're strapped down. Bernard, when you came to Memphis, I was strapped down. Hell, I killed
Hey, look, I was
no.
too.
So is it guns that cause the killing? No, that's a damn lie. It's a lack of character.
Yeah, and they just
So
and
let's deal with the character.
Look at this. Got your buddy is locked in a nasty dispute with his landlord over the Holler building, over the National Action Network building. So I'll shop a little bit of trouble up here with the landlord. What do you think? Huh? It's all coming
He need to cut back on his chicken bill.
Well, let me bring up a couple things.
I bet he loves Popeye's fried chicken sandwiches. Don't he love him some chicken sandwiches? And his ass got skinny. He was waiting out in that 100-degree heat for an hour and a half trying to get him a chicken sandwich 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he just sit up there. Can't you see him? He gets through conniptions. I want to hold a hand. I want to hold a hand. And it's just coming on me. I can't help it. We shall over. Damn fool. Someday done come and win. And shit ain't hit yet. Get over and get something else ready. What's the matter with you?
Well, let me bring up something right quick that I wanted to bring up. Like I said, I wasn't gonna hold you long that day. I just wanted to bring on, since we were talking about the Trump thing and we were talking about this earlier. So, but I do want you to bring up something. Bring up two things right quick, and Shaq, you can bring anything concerned too, as well. But Judge, you are obviously been talking a lot on a lot of platforms about running for mayor. So, tell me about the good news.
Yeah, JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown. And I've got some plans to get hydroelectric power in here, sell the surplus up and down to Mississippi, to Chicago, to New Orleans, to Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kentucky, Oklahoma. Bring industry in, make Memphis the mecca of the South again in terms of not agrarian economy stuff, but industrial things, to make it a main seaport of entry, to bring in traffic that started off by barge in Europe and put on ocean-going barge transports, brought to New Orleans, towed up the Mississippi River, or pushed, really, brought in here so Europe and Africa, the Mediterranean can get directly into Memphis or go through the Suez Canal from Asia and come here. And when they get in, they're at the transportation hub of the country. I want to do something about reforming the police concept. So instead of ineffective civilian oversight committees. What we have is something modeled on the Pentagon, where you have a civilian secretary of defense. We'll have a civilian director of police. You have a civilian secretary of the Army, Navy, et cetera, et cetera. We'll have civilian directors of homicide, uniform patrol, sex crimes, property crimes, traffic, you name it. We've got a new juvenile court judge who used to be a law partner of mine and then became public defender in my courtroom for 10 years. Now he's the new juvenile court judge, and he'll reform that corruption that's been on down there for 60 some years. So we don't have a private business generating future monetary profit by increasing juvenile crime. We can do something about recruiting from that would-be group of thugs, some young white leadership. We can set up block command structures so that civilians will have communication access directly into the police department, where you can have a parallel thing to 911. The Second Amendment exists. We've got authorization to have the mayor implement a community militia so that you can have the good citizens who are vets, retired first responders, good citizens. They can have an opportunity to go out on patrol after getting training, and they can participate in the pacification of their own communities, build that equity, and not feel helpless about what's going wrong, but can participate in the correction. We can start getting the unions involved in recruiting the youth to become apprentices and not have competition from cheap labor out there getting paid nothing, but future union members who will be taught vocational skills. We can use something of leverage to spread the load around in terms of the city deposit, so one bank doesn't get the benefit, and use restrictive policies to blank out white and black small businesses so they can't get any loan advances. We can do a lot of things. And nobody around here gives a damn, because they are looking at the people as a herd of cows that they can manipulate so they get wealthy off of a cheap ass $18,000 a year part-time job, instead of going out there to represent the people. And we need to get rid of that mess. So,
well,
that
I got
could
something
be
to say about
arranged.
that. Well, I'm just gonna say that's good that you are running. And hey, look, you don't do that, but you also sell sauce, don't you?
Oh, I sell sauce. I deliver service and sell sauce. And for that one, it's also JJB, but add barbecue on it, BBQ. So if you go to JJBBBQ.com, you can order yourself some of the best damn barbecue sauce you'll ever be able to buy. And we've got recipes coming. We've got seasoning. We've got chicken links, mild and hot, smoked and raw. And we'll have some other stuff going. And it will be on the shelves hopefully by the end of the summer. But right now, get yourself a bottle, a 3-pack, or a case. And it is great stuff. Impress your friends. You don't even have to lie about it. You just not tell anybody where you got it from, except whisper it in your ear later, so you can show out and say, hey, wasn't it good?
And I got one more thing to say.
JJBBBQ.com.
You wrote a good forward in this book right here, Dr. Carmen Johnson, The Pretense of Justice. You got a good forward in here. As a matter of fact, it says right here on the bottom, forwarded by Judge Joe Brown right there.
I did.
Right so,
she's a beautiful lady, very brave, and she got in trouble thanks to some rules that the Biden, Eastland, Stennis Byrd bunch passed back late 1970s, 70 Act of 79, and then the Act of 81. That's way before the 94 Act. And what happened is they used some procedural mess because Soros and company allegedly were ripping people off on mortgage foreclosures. And the doc there, he had a program that was restoring people of their credit, and she didn't even charge. She didn't know it, but there were 2 Nigerians who went through the program to get their credit restored. And meanwhile, she was doing a thing where she was working with the Maryland NAACP to protect ordinary people from getting fraudulently foreclosed on relative to their mortgages. Apparently, the governor of the state had an interest at that time in running for president, and one of his nieces was a federal prosecutor, allegedly. So they were trying to get the doctor to back off. She wouldn't. So they discovered that 2 of the people that they indicted in a mass fraud scheme, that she didn't even remember who they were. She just helped them get the credit restored. They brought her in as a co-defendant. They had a black federal judge, and this was his first trial, and His Honor just blew it all to hell. And he allowed the federal government to seize $3.5 million of her funds when they said, we may find other criminal activity, but that's been 16 years ago. Well, not 16, that's been
well, let me
9 years ago, 10
let
years.
me bring this up.
And they haven't found anything, but she still hasn't gotten the money back. So she got sentenced to 5 years in a penitentiary. Interestingly enough, the people at the feds were initially after said this woman didn't have anything to do with it. We don't even know this woman. But she lucked out in a way that was really showing what kind of character she has. They had a sting operation going against this women's detention facility. And they noticed that there was one woman that kept getting taken to the emergency room for heat prostration. So they discovered that it was Dr. Johnson, and what had been happening is every day they would put her for a number of hours in a small cubicle and shine heat lamps down on her until she passed out. So they kept taking her to an emergency room. So she wound up serving about 3 of the 5 years that she would have had to serve under the federal system, almost week for week, month for month. And that's because they were trying to torture her into recanting her accusations of mortgage fraud. That is the same episode that wound up with Soros and One West Bank out in California getting busted on 5,000 plus counts of indictment in San Diego County, Santa Barbara County, Ventura County, LA County, San Joaquin, Orange County against Mnuchin and One West Bank for fraudulent mortgage foreclosures. Well, they bought off Kamala Harris and they financed her run for state attorney general. And when she got in, she exercised California law to consolidate all 5,000 some counts of the indictment and dismissed them. Then they financed her to be U.S. Senator, and the rest is history. So Soros in 2014 sold this bank that was about to be locked down, One West Bank, for $4.2 billion.
Well,
and
let
they
me bring
made
that
a
up.
big profit.
Well, let me bring that up. That's the thing with Soros, and he's been hiring those type of attorneys all over the country. But I just, like I said,
District attorneys.
But like I said, it's great that you're in her book, and I'm still reading it. So got a lot of great pictures in here. A lot of she broke this book down. The book is let's see, over 300 pages long. So, but she did a good job. Shout out to her and Gavin Rashad, and shout out to you, Judge, for doing that as well. Let me just say, how can they reach you, Judge? On platform, Twitter.
Oh, well, you can get me on Twitter at Judge Joe Brown TV. And I do not have one of those damn blue checks. And occasionally I get profane. Sometimes I got a weird sense of humor. And I will speak my mind, and to hell with the fools that don't like it. I'm too old to worry about it. I cussed out a referee one time about 8 years ago, wound up having to do 5 days in jail because I was trying to save a 55-year-old woman that this jackass holds. The name is Harold Horn, a.k.a. Dirty Harry. And he wasn't a judge. He was a shyster who got out of law school. And the judge down there who couldn't hear cases because he was a 6th grade dropout hired him. And it's been years ago. And I used to kick his ass way back when. And he had to go to a damn golf game. So he was also in violations of some orders that I'd issued when I was on the bench. So I didn't give a damn. Hell, I can do 5 days for that kind of thing. But I don't back down for shit like that, see. So now his ass is turned out, and his punk partners down there who have been running that reckless place that ought to be in the penitentiary there for, they turned out now.
Let me bring this up.
Big is up.
I want to bring up to the brother Shaq. You got any good commentary to bring up on this topic tonight? Thank you for coming on. Actually, twice because you were on earlier, but hey, you're back again. So I want you to.
It's always good hearing from Brother Shaq over there. He always has some pearls of wisdom to drop.
Thank you, man. There you go, Judge.
I salute you, Judge.
Stop sending me this shit at 4:16 a.m. in the damn morning. Hell.
Huh?
Stop sending me this crap at 4:16 a.m. in the morning,
shit, man. My fault, man.
I'm an old man. I need my sleep, man. It's hard to get to sleep.
All right,
tell them wait till afternoon. Hey, tell them wait till the Bill 30. Wait till what they call Bill 30. Bill 30 time.
Right.
Wait till after Bill 30 time, Bernard.
Shaq, we had a good time. It was a good to get these topics out again. Twice, actually. But, hey, it is what it is, man. Sometimes I do it twice. Sometimes you might. But it is what it is. So I'm glad the judge came on tonight because this was some interesting topics. But
well, I'm going to be honest. It's always a pleasure to see people I got to salute the judge for being a man that, is very distinct, a distinguished gentleman. You know what I mean? And I definitely appreciate it. And being able, I use this social media and I don't let it use me. That's my motto. So I found you guys and other people, Bishop, Victor, Valerie, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm glad I met you guys.
All right, brother.
Through all the traffic that's the internet throws your way.
I'll be able to rest in peace and knowing I left it in good hands.
Well, thank you. And y'all can give me at kingbjmedia.com and King BJ Johnson right here and Bernard Johnson Facebook. So glad y'all gentlemen came on. Y'all take your time. Have a wonderful night. And hey, just keep on fighting, man, because hey, look, midterm is dang. It's August 8th, 3 months away. Hey, get ready.
Oh,
3 months.
Somebody trying to sneak out of the ass whipping that they about to get.
Yes, sir. Well, you take your time.
Excuse me for cussing. I could say the dichotomies of the current situation are in terms of the ramifications upon the outcomes that are likely and what has been become known colloquially as the midterm elections, when miscreant political parties and officials occupying, in particular, the White House, finally wind up having to pay the piper, so to speak. No. You full of shit, asshole. About to get your ass kicked and get turned out.
Take your time, Judge and Shaq.
Hey, salute, gentlemen. Salute. Peace.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm out of here.